I'm inviting NWO team for their final presentations. Jozef Stuver.
Good afternoon. Everybody wants to go to the drinks, but I will briefly tell you some more details about the plans which we are currently making for the new phase of the Caribbean research program. It's important to emphasize that this is all preliminary. No definite decisions have been taken, but I want to you, the interested people from different parts of academia and outside, we would like to inform you which direction we are thinking at, or which direction the new program will go. I will start with a brief history of the Caribbean Research Program. It was initiated in 2012 by our Ministry of Education, Culture and Science. In 2013, the same ministry decided to fund a 5 years funding program. And we at NWO, we were asked by the ministry to implement the funding program. The total budget was 10 million euros, and there was an additional part, 2.5 million euros in these 5 years, which was reserved for the CNSI on Synthesia. And this was run by the NWO Institute NEOS. In 2014, 9 large projects were funded from the first call of proposals. So this is not only 9 positions, but these projects are bigger than one PhD or a postdoc position. In 2016, we had another round of funding. Again, 9 projects. In 2018, because it was a very successful initiative, the ministry decided to continue the program for 5 more years with the same total budget. In 2018, we also established the NWO Program Committee for Caribbean Research. That's a new body. I will explain this in a minute. To run the program, basically. And now in 2019, we prepare for the phase 2. And actually, behind the scenes, we are it's not ready, but the preparations are advancing quite well. And so, as Wim told you, we will hopefully publish a call in autumn, and he said in September, where you will be able to read all the details. And now we are in the stage of information and network events, and this is the first one, as Tanya said. We will also have information and network events on the islands, because we find it important to explain the new situation and the new program also to the regional, local people and institutions. So the new program has this governance structure, basically. The Ministry of Education, Culture and Science funds the program, and NWO, which is an independent body under the ministry, carries out the program. We have different domains, as Niels explained, and we have established a program committee which covers the science domain and the social sciences and humanities domain, which includes also 2 external NWO external experts. Nick Lopez Cardoso, he is not here today. He is the chair of this program committee. Wim is one of the members. John Marks, also in the room, is one of the members, and Glenn today is also on this body. And the program committee is the committee which basically runs the program. Formal decisions will be taken in the board of the NWO domain science. So before I tell you some more details, oh, I will tell it again. You didn't get it? So just to explain why we came to the new program, how we came to the new program, I have done a very not informal, very short SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so I will talk you through those. I think the first phase of the Caribbean research program had a lot of strength. I just mentioned a few of them. It really created attention for Caribbean research topics. They were already present in the community, of course, but the call really led to a kind of activation of the scientific field, and we got a lot more attention for these subjects from very different disciplines. So there are a broad range of topics and also a broad geographical range were covered in these research projects, and it led to awareness building and also to really high quality projects. Some of them you have heard this afternoon. There were also some weaknesses we realized when looking back. The first program led to a relatively weak regional embedding, and that was partly due to a lack of funding, because the institutions in the region could not apply directly for funding, so the embedding was also weaker than we had hoped for. So the strength of the broad range at the same time is also a weakness, because we get many unrelated projects, and the program as a whole is slightly unfocused. And the program we had in the past tends to stimulate remote research, I call it here, so that research is mainly carried out here and will not necessarily lead to a true embedding on the islands. So there is a suboptimal sustained impact. The opportunities we are seeing for the next phase, I think we should do everything to strengthen a sustainable basis for research in the region. And a sustainable basis should apply to capacity building and also to the development, upgrading of the infrastructure. And infrastructure can be everything what you need for doing science. An opportunity is to embed research really locally. That's something we really want to stimulate, we want to achieve. We also want to encourage, and I think Niels has talked about that already, even stronger research collaboration and research alliances within, but also between the Caribbean islands and the Netherlands. And if we succeed in this gives also the basis for attracting additional funds for research. So not only from NWO, but also, for example, from European funding schemes. So we hope that this will initiate a kind of snowball effect. What are the threats? So the first phase of the program was good in the sense of activation of the field. But if we would continue with open calls, it would probably lead to an evaporation of funds without lasting impact, because it results in many small projects which lack the strength and continuity to really change something. And we would rather support brain drain than invest in brain gain. And eventually, this might also lead to an increasing disparity between institutions in the Caribbean and the Netherlands. And the disparity can apply to different things like funding. And of course, from a point of view of scientists, this would also be a missed opportunity to engage with typical Caribbean subjects. And that would be a shame if we wouldn't have the opportunity, or we wouldn't take the opportunity to study those in more detail. So I will now just briefly present a few elements of the new program. I reiterate it's work in progress, and some things might be changed along the way. First of all, we did an inventory of ongoing research projects. A colleague of mine, René Prop, has done that. And because we realized that there are a lot of projects going on, but nobody really knows what the other one does or what's going on. So there is no real overview of projects. And that was also something we were asked by the ministry when they decided to prolong the program, that we should look into that. So we looked at all general universities, also universities of applied sciences, applied research institutions and other organizations. What are they doing on the islands or here with in terms of projects which are about the Caribbean islands of the kingdom? And we found a few main categories. We classified the projects. There were 185 projects, and I'm sure we didn't find all of them. And they were mainly on education, culture, identity. That was one class of subjects. Socio-economic issues, governance, health and nutrition, and all related aspects, and sustainability, environment, climate, water. Of course, you could expand this list, but that's how we classified the ongoing projects, and that's also tells us also something about the sort of priorities in terms of research projects. The priorities which are currently given. The second element of the new program is our intention to develop a kind of science agenda. It's a big word to call it a science agenda, but I couldn't find a much better term for that. So we will do an online public consultation. I have listened very carefully to Stacy and other people telling the difficulties about online consultations, but it will be a very, very simple one. We intend to ask only 2 questions. So I think that should be doable. It's not yet operational, and we will send out announcement when it is ready. And what we want to do is to give institutions and people on the island the opportunity to tell us what the most pressing issues for research are. And I have heard already in some of the presentations that this would be something interesting. And so I think, I hope we get a lot of response. And the whole process is a little bit modeled after the National Research Agenda, but we hope that we don't get 12,000 replies like in that case. And one other element of the new program is an effort to take research to a more international level. So we are planning to talk to different countries, institutions, in the hope that we can collaborate on Caribbean topics. So that could be done within the European Union, for example, with France, UK, I'm not quite sure at this moment, but also with other relevant countries in the region, with other international bodies as well. But this is not something we have, that's not the main priority. So we have not started very much with this yet. The current focus is on developing the new funding program. And that is probably also the most interesting part for you at this moment. So the new funding program will run formally from 2018 to 2022. That's the funding period. And I think the whole funding program will have the slogan, more focus, more substance. And we want to strengthen the local research capacity. I've said it already, but it's good to repeat that a few times. And we want to emphasize the continuity of research in the region. So the preliminary structure of the new program is as follows. There will be, as Wim said already, there will be funding available for 2 research groups settled on the islands. So we will try to fund broader research groups, research programs, which are not only acting from here, but which actually settle on the islands and have therefore the capacity to be embedded and linked in a much better way to the regional context. The research groups should do broad interdisciplinary research within the framework of SITS. Most of you are probably familiar with SITS. It's Small Island Development States. That's an internationally recognized framework. It should the research should cover all six islands of the kingdom, and it can also go beyond that, depending on the subject. The groups will be led by 2 principal investigators who should also be mainly working on the islands. And these principal investigators, like Wim told us in the beginning of this meeting, they will be selected by a call. That's all we do here at NWO. It's always a call. And the call will probably be launched in autumn 2019. One thing which is important to tell is there will be a substantial budget for these 2 research groups, a substantial budget for 5 years to ensure impact. So the exact budget has not been decided yet, but you should think of something like a Fiji or slightly more, as Wim said this morning, or at the ERC grant. What do we want them to do? So this scheme should stimulate embedding of research, of doing science in the regional setting. And we hope that in this way we can make a contribution to building strong networks with regional universities and other relevant organizations in the area. And in addition, we hope that this will also these groups will also make a contribution to higher education in the region. And if if we succeed, I think we will. If we succeed in this, if we get good groups, good leaders, they will probably also be have to be some pioneers in their area. If we succeed, then I think these groups will also have the opportunity and also have the capacity to participate in national and international research consortia. And so they can also help attracting more funding through different schemes like NWO, Horizon 2020, and the follow-up of Horizon 2020, which is now under development, which will be called Horizon Europe. But to achieve this, we will, of course, we cannot do this ourselves. We will just provide funds and the structure, but we need you, the scientists, but also the organizations here and in the Caribbean region to make this a success. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone who wants to help Joseph? No. Anyone who has a question or yeah, Tatjana? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, what are the criteria for the principal investigators? Are they supposed to be from the islands themselves, or are they? Is there? It could be Dutch people, because maybe you don't find the principal investigators that you need for a certain project on the island.
Yeah, we received already quite a few warnings that these principal investigators we are looking for are not available. But I'm still being optimistic. So we don't know yet what the exact requirements will be, because it has not been decided yet. But I think it will be as open as possible.
Does that mean also that? Does that also mean that these principal investigators can be like PhD students, or basically, or let's say?
No, they will not be.
They
will. That's almost certainly not the case, because the requirements will be that they build and lead a strong group. We don't aim at very established professors. But we are probably aiming at the intermediate career level, where people are open to develop new things, but they must have a certain experience in the field. So PhD students will most likely not be allowed to apply for this.
Okay, then sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to ask then, how are you going to avoid that certain research projects will kind of have, like, how do you get a more leveling playing field in that sense? Because some researchers are just maybe not available.
Some researchers are not.
Yeah, her question is basically, so how do you get an honest level playing field? Because she's a PhD. No. But yeah, so the question is how to involve PhD students, or Caribbean scientist. No.
No, my question is more like for certain research projects, where let's say there's a collaboration with. Sorry, so I meant more in the sense that if there's a research institute in the Netherlands wants to cooperate on a research project with people in the islands, but there are just no principal investigators available, then they might be excluded because they just can't find these people. How do you avoid this from happening?
Well, I think we have to distinguish between the generic measures and the specific measures, because I have the feeling that you're more talking about the generic measures, because everybody, with the change in the NWO granting rules, everybody has the possibility, everybody employed by a publicly funded university in the Caribbean has the possibility to apply for funding. And so this will serve the broad field. But the two groups, they will focus on certain subtopics. They will not, it's impossible that they cover all the fields. So it will also be up to the PIs, to the principal investigators, to define their subjects and to make clear to the expert committee, which will make recommendations on this. So they have to make clear how they interact with local universities, stakeholders, organizations.
Mr. Marks, yes. Oh, many questions, yes.
Yeah, I'm John Marks. I'm independent member of the program committee, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the program committee. It's important to emphasize that. Just one question and a comment. A question to Joseph. Could you expand a little bit more on the relationship with the Caribbean Netherlands Science Institute that you foresee in the program? And my comment is that in the way we have been thinking about the program, the setting up of the program, we really want to have an impact at the end of this period, an impact, a permanent impact in research and researchers in the region. And that's why we have chosen not to distribute the money in smaller projects, but to have a big project. Now, when you think about people who can lead such a project, you need actually sheep with many more than 5 feet. Because what you really want is people who are able to build something, to build outreach, to build teams crossing many disciplines, including the natural sciences and the social sciences, and in my view, including also the humanities and the technical science. So you ask a lot of people, and that means that the proposals that you will get will probably be quite complex and large and will require a bit of further design, and we need to think about how to do that through a call process. So it's really, it's not simply trying to get some good projects, but it's to get a new type of institution off the ground.
Okay.
Yes.
That was the remark. Yeah, do you want to,
Thank you very much, John, for clarifying the intentions further. And your question related to the CNSI, the Caribbean Netherlands Science Institute on Stasia. And I haven't talked about that because that's currently under discussion. And we also got a question from the ministry to think about the position of the CNSI in the new program. And well, we are not actually in a stage where I can offer many details, but I think the CNSI will get a much more prominent position, much more important position. That's what we think of and what I hope of in the new program. But how this exactly how this will work in detail, I really don't know yet.
There was a question here. Yes.
Roosmarijn Hufte, KITLV. I have a question that extends on capacity building. And that is, Wim, I think, mentioned it, that you are going to invite people to be part of a VENI committee so that they can judge applications, or somebody else, I'm sorry. I think Wim does everything. But that they can be part of the committee to judge applications so that they can get a taste of how it works. But that is only going to be late next year, or late this year, early next year. How are you, I mean, writing a proposal, we all know, is complicated. Not only the budgetary, but also the content, how to do this. How are you going to provide kind of a service to the people in the Caribbean who might not be used to this Dutch system?
Yes, that's a very good question, I think, and we have thought about it a little bit, but I don't have a very definite answer to it. But this is actually one of the questions we really want to discuss with the institutions, University of Curaçao, University of Aruba, when we go there in autumn, because as Niels explained earlier this afternoon, it's also for Dutch institutions, it's not trivial, and so if you're not used to this system, it takes quite something to get into it. And I think over time, institutions on the islands, they also there is a need to in a way professionalize the funding part. Of course, now up to now they were not allowed to submit a proposal, so they did. There was no need to have that. But I think like Dutch universities, they all have granting offices. And so that might be a possibility for the institutions to deal with it. So some specialists helping the researchers in drafting their applications, but it will not be a sudden change.
Lisa Becking, yes.
Well, so I'm happy to hear that there potentially are developments with CNSI giving it another status, because something I just noticed while we heard the first presentation, when it showed the universities and the institutions that can apply, they're all universities not on the BES-eilanden. So actually, you have these three islands, Ceiba, Sint-Eustatius, and Bonaire, that actually can't be. There are no one for PEIs from those islands. I don't really know any answers. It was just I was noticing that, and I was thinking, gosh, that's potentially talking about the level playing field that potentially could have effect. Yeah. And also in relation to fostering research, nuclei, and indeed building up institutions, that's wonderful. But what are your thoughts about those three islands?
Yes.
What? Yeah.
That is. It's just a fact that there are no universities, no academic institutions which would qualify as institutions we can fund. So there is not at this moment not much we can do on our side. But something which I said earlier already is that institutions on these islands, they can, of course, collaborate with the universities, and I think that will be one of the ways forward.
You suggested an educational hub or something on Bonaire.
Yes, but I don't think that would have that. Well, at least not in short term. That wouldn't have that status. No, I'm just because I mean then, but then it's not different than it is now. I mean, we also incorporate all the different institutions. I mean, they're part of the project as well, but they just can't leave.
But what I mean is actually that the different institutions on the islands and also on the other three islands, this applies to all the 6 islands, that they could have part-time professors at the universities. And by this, these people, they do qualify for us as applicants. And I think that's also what you see here. That is not, again, not a short-term thing to do, but this has a lot of potential, I think, also for the 3 islands without a publicly funded university.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Adriana Tami from the University of Groningen. I'm the PI of one of the proposed projects that were granted in the last call. And so I'm trying to understand it, or to see if I understand. So the next call will be 2 groups, which means 2 big projects that will be granted only. And the idea is to have sort of a big consortia, multidisciplinary, and there will be 2 PIs per group. 1, okay. So these 2 PIs are the PIs of each project, or big project.
Yes.
Okay, and you, what you just said is that you want these projects to be multidisciplinary, and you will be still defining which are the fields of the scientific that will be eligible. And so that's why I would just to clarify, because the ones who are already, like us, working in the islands, if we will have a chance to join, obviously this will be, then we will join into a bigger consortium and maybe bringing continuity to the projects that we already have. Is that one of the ideas? Just to understand, yes, what is the frame of thought?
The exact topics or the areas, I cannot say anything concrete about that right now. But it is in terms of strategy, it is the intention that the PIs, the research programs, the groups, which we will fund, that they combine, or they join forces with consortia, with PIs already working on subjects on the islands. So that would be great, and we will also encourage them to take up this positive energy from the different consortia.
Yeah, exactly. So in that respect, I was going to ask if you will have any more networking meetings, or how can NWO facilitate networking, not only with the ones who are already working, but other. For instance, we're working only in Curaçao. Our intention is to broaden to all the other islands. Mm-hmm. That was already our intention. That it's good to see that this is also your intentions. How can we find with whom to work in this other?
That's a good question, and I think it's valid to say that there is some need for more networking events. We have not, except for the information events, we have not made any plans, but we are very interested and very open to suggestions of how to do that. So please contact us and tell us what you need.
Yeah, we should organize. Let's do 3 more questions, because it really is 5:30 and
should go for drinks.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I go to the lady, I go to Erik, and I go to this young man. Yes.
All right. So thank you again for your presentation. And that was exactly my question. So how are you going to work on the networking? But maybe you asked for a suggestion, maybe for a next networking meeting, maybe put on the tags, for example, like a color, and then put like, for example, red would be health. And then I would know, oh, health, I can go to her and I can talk to them and see how we can try to form a collaboration. Because, for example, right now I'm in health, so anyone in health, please contact me. So yeah, because I mean, I'm a PhD student. I come from Aruba, so for me it's a very, I would really like to get to know more what I can do and how I can bring something back. So the brain gain, what we already talked about.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the suggestion. And so we have some experience with organizing. We call them mainly matchmaking events. So bringing people together, which do not necessarily work together already. So, but all suggestions of this kind are very welcome.
Erik Meesters.
Hi, Joseph. Yeah, I've been listening the whole afternoon now, and there's just a few things that I think about and that I'm wondering about. It's very nice of NWO to think of, 5 years. But of course, I mean, 5 years is gone in a click, and it doesn't mean much for these islands, I think, if you not think beyond the 5 years. I mean, if you don't want a brain drain, which is happening the whole time, you need to have jobs there.
Yeah.
And the islands are very dependent on tourism. Well, they don't have much natural resources. So, and the only universities that are there are basically law, medicine, and economics. So, do the islands need more economists, more lawyers, and more doctors? I'm not sure. So I think we should think much more long term. And how do these islands get jobs for the people? So, which if there is a market for jobs, then people will go to the islands. But if there's not, then you can educate as many people as you want, but they will all leave.
Yes.
Yes, but it is true. Yeah, but maybe that also the survey will help to bring the
Yes.
local needs.
And what we are trying here, of course, we are NWO, and from the Ministry of Education, Culture and Research. So we try to make a contribution to that by using research and science. Of course, we will not be able to solve all these complex issues, but by studying SITS related problems, we may make a small contribution to the future of the island. So, but you're of course right.
Closing remarks.
Yeah, also to say something positive actually is we do get more and more students from there, and some of them really go back and get a job there. So I think there is a long-term impact, but it's going really slowly. Much slower than I would like to, seeing how nature is kind of slowly disappearing as well.
Yeah, because maybe that's good to say you work with Lisa on several projects. Yes. Yeah. So for nature, you can reach Erik. Okay, last question or remark? Yes. From a young student, good?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm very happy to hear the NWO is, providing this program for the Caribbean. I'm a student at the University of Groningen. I'll be finishing next year, and I really want to do a PG, but just to have some orientation. This program that will open in September to apply, it's only for people that already have a PG, right? Or is there also flexibility for students who would like to join this program as part of their PG or something in direction? Because I would like to do that.
Of course, there will be such opportunities. The PIs, the leaders, they will be, we hope, mid-career scientists, but they have to find people working with them. And that is one of the major tasks for them, because they cannot do all these things themselves, but they should find the right people, young people mainly, I think, to do the research and to do all the other things which we would like them to do. So definitely, yes, watch out for those programs.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know more students my age from Aruba that would like to do a PG and research, so I will definitely reach out to them, and I'm going in the summer, and I will obviously do my best to see if I can network some more students. So that was the main question, but I'm glad to hear that even students who want to do a PG could be involved in the program. Because
Yes,
then,
sure. Yeah.
So the PI will build a project, and part of the funding, if I understand correctly, will go to this PI. But then there will be PhD positions, postdoc positions in his or her group, and that person will start looking for the best people to work with. So there will be opportunities. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So it should result in a group.
Two more. Joseph, don't go.
So, first of all, thank you for this wonderful meeting. My name is Robert Borst from Erasmus University in Rotterdam. And now that I do have the microphone, I'm wondering which question to share, actually, because I've got plenty. So, first of all, I really like Lisa's question about the Bonaire, Statia, and Saba region. And then I'm not so sure about the solution to collaborate with, for instance, University on Curaçao. That would be like saying, let's collaborate with the university in Germany because they do understand Dutch problems. And I don't think that's the same. And I've been in quite a few of FP7 consortia, and there you consistently see the conclusion, no, but our country is different. So yes, I do. I mean, I would encourage collaboration, but be sure that you don't generalize and say these islands are all the same, because I don't think they are. And that's probably not what you're saying, but just be careful there, I think. We know quite a bit about those different dynamics, actually. The second being, I do like the idea with the stickers, but if you do want interdisciplinarity, you probably need to mingle. So then it's not necessarily the best thing to emphasize that is natural sciences and that is health. I would really mix them and think about a way to do that in a productive way. Thank you.
Yes, usually if we do such meetings, we may hand out colored stickers. But then we force people with different colors to sit at the same table and to discuss things. That helps usually.
Okay, yes.
I'm Sofia Saavedra from KU Leuven, but I lived and worked 10 years at the University of Curaçao. Regarding his question on job creation, in the collaboration of KU Leuven with Aruba, it's actually included that the PhD students, they get offered afterwards a position at the university to become professor. It's like part of the game, and maybe that's something you could think of. Because it's actually really necessary to have capable people teaching at the universities. And we don't get, when you teach there, you don't get the chance to do your PhD. There's no time, no money to do your PhD.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Jago, because you're Jago, and you come all the way from Wageningen. Yes.
I'm not the only one.
No, you're not the only one.
Hi, Jago from Wageningen. Just wondering, going back to the point of the level playing field, have you considered simplifying a little bit the process? Something like a two-step submission, in which maybe institutions who don't have a lot of experience with submitting proposal could submit a pre-proposal. Maybe that would help a little bit.
I haven't gone into details about the procedure because it has not been finalized yet. But of course, we will do a two-step procedure. We will not require everybody to write a full proposal for a big research program. That's not very wouldn't be very productive. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph Stuver. Yes. Thank you for your attention, for your good questions. We realize people on the different islands are also watching and may have questions. We will come to you personally, and I think it's important to be able to share the PowerPoints that we showed today. I think also of you researchers, so we will provide that. And for now, we invite you for drinks and networking. And, on behalf of We Connect, thank you on behalf of NWO. Closing remarks?
Thank you all. And we hope to see you in the next networking event.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And bon weekend.